reassurance that you still cared. Now they want to understand whether there is something worth rebuilding. That is a much deeper intention. They are not simply chasing a feeling. They are confronting a decision. And the decision is whether to finally communicate honestly before distance becomes permanent. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because there is one thing they have realized about you that may surprise you. They now believe that you are much stronger than they once thought. They may have assumed that you would always be available, always understanding, always willing to wait. But your silence taught them otherwise. They learned that your kindness does not mean you will accept endless uncertainty. They learned that your patience has limits. They learned that your heart deserves reciprocity. And strangely enough, that realization increased their respect for you. They may now admire the very boundaries they once struggled to understand. They realize that if they want to be part of your life again, they must meet you with the same honesty and maturity you deserve. Last night, your soulmate also confronted a memory that they had avoided for a long time. It was a moment when they knew they should have spoken but did not. Maybe they had the perfect opportunity to explain themselves. Maybe they could have reached out. Maybe they could have admitted that they were afraid. Instead, they chose silence. At the time, silence probably felt easier. But looking back now, they realized that silence had consequences. It created questions. It created distance. It created a version of the story where you may have believed they simply did not care. And that thought is now painful for them. They wish you knew what was actually happening inside them at the time. They wish you knew how many thoughts they never expressed. They wish you understood that their hesitation was not necessarily a lack of feeling. Sometimes people stay quiet because they are overwhelmed by what they feel. But your soulmate now understands that an unspoken feeling cannot protect a connection. If anything, it can destroy the possibility of being understood. That is the lesson they learned last night. And once someone learns a lesson that deeply, they cannot easily return to the old version of themselves. They may still be nervous. They may still hesitate. But something inside them has changed. They are starting to believe that the only way forward is through honesty. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, because the next revelation is about what happens when they finally decide to reach out. They are not only thinking about what they will say. They are thinking about what they will hear from you. They are preparing themselves emotionally for your response. They understand that you may have questions. You may have doubts. You may need time. You may not immediately believe their words. And strangely, they are beginning to accept that. Before, they may have wanted a perfect response. Now, they simply want a real one. That is growth. That is why this moment feels different. Your soulmate has also realized something about timing that they once ignored. There are moments when a person can wait too long, not because love disappears instantly, but because life keeps moving. People grow. Priorities change. Hearts heal. New opportunities appear. And your soulmate knows that you have the right to move forward. This knowledge is creating urgency. They do not want to look back someday and realize they had one chance to be honest but chose fear instead. They do not want to wonder forever whether a single conversation could have changed everything. They want the opportunity to speak while the possibility still exists. And that is why the emotional message behind this warning is so strong. Someone who once believed there was endless time is suddenly aware that time is precious. They are thinking about you differently. They are thinking about what they should have said. They are thinking about what they need to change. They are thinking about whether they are finally ready to show up honestly. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The most important thing you should understand is that you do not need to force the outcome. You do not need to chase the message. You do not need to convince anyone of your value. Your soulmate is beginning to understand your value on their own. That realization is more meaningful than anything you could force. Let their actions speak when the time comes. Let their consistency reveal whether their words are real. Let the future show whether this new understanding becomes something lasting. For now, recognize what has changed. They are no longer asking themselves whether they miss you. They are asking themselves whether they are brave enough to do something about it. And now we come to the final revelation of this part. Last night, your soulmate realized that the thing they are most afraid of is not rejection. It is regret. Rejection would hurt, but at least it would give them an answer. Regret would leave them wondering forever. They could live with hearing a difficult truth from you. What they are struggling to accept is the possibility that they never speak at all. That they never tell you how much you mattered. That they never apologize for the moments when their silence caused confusion. That they never ask whether there is still a possibility of rebuilding trust. They are afraid of waking up one day and realizing they protected their pride so carefully that they lost something meaningful in the process. That is why they are trying to reach you. That is why their thoughts have become restless. That is why last night felt different. Something inside them finally said, "Enough waiting." They may still be gathering courage. They may still be searching for the right words. They may still wonder how you will respond. You before they lose you forever, my beloved child. Something happened last night that may explain why you have been feeling that strange pull in your heart, that sudden urge to check your phone, that unexpected memory of someone you thought you had finally stopped thinking about. Do not skip this message, because the first sign may already have appeared in your life without you realizing what it meant. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, and the reason this message feels urgent is because someone has reached a point where silence no longer feels safe for their heart. Your soulmate has been thinking about reaching you, but something inside them has been creating hesitation. They have written words and erased them. They have opened a conversation and closed it. They have looked at your name and wondered whether they should finally take that step. And last night, something changed. A memory, a realization, or perhaps a conversation with someone close to them forced them to confront a truth they had been avoiding. If they keep waiting for the perfect moment, the moment may never come. They suddenly realized that you are not standing still in time. You are living your life. You are growing, changing, healing, and becoming someone they may no longer be able to reach in the same way if they continue waiting. That thought shook them. For a long time, they may have believed that whenever they were ready, you would somehow still be there. But last night, they began to understand that your heart cannot be placed on pause for someone else's uncertainty. This realization created an emotional urgency they could no longer ignore. They began thinking about the last meaningful interaction between you. They remembered what was said, what was left unsaid, the moments where they almost opened their heart but stopped themselves. They remembered the distance. They remembered the silence. They remembered the possibility that you may have interpreted their silence as a lack of care. And suddenly, that possibility became unbearable. Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because this is not simply about someone missing you. It is about someone realizing that they may have waited too long to tell you what you actually mean to them. The surprising part is that they are not only thinking about contacting you, they are trying to figure out how to approach you without repeating the mistakes that created the distance in the first place. They know a simple message cannot erase everything. They know one conversation cannot magically repair every misunderstanding. But they also know that doing nothing guarantees that the distance will remain. And that is the thought that kept returning to them last night. What if the person I keep thinking about is already learning how to live without me? That question changed everything. There was a moment last night when your soulmate apparently stopped distracting themselves and allowed their thoughts to become completely honest. No noise, no excuses, no pretending. Just the truth. And the truth was uncomfortable. They realized that every time they told themselves they had moved on, something would remind them of you. It could be a familiar place, a certain phrase, a photograph, a song, or even a completely ordinary moment that suddenly brought your memory back. They had tried to treat those moments as coincidences, but last night they stopped dismissing them. They started asking themselves why your memory continued returning if the connection meant nothing. They began remembering the smallest details about you. Details they never expected to remember so clearly. They remembered the way you responded when they were uncertain. They remembered the times you listened when they needed someone. They remembered moments when you could have demanded an explanation but instead gave them space. They remembered the warmth in conversations that once seemed ordinary. And then came the painful realization: they had not appreciated some of those moments while they were happening. They had assumed there would always be another conversation, another opportunity, another chance to explain themselves. But now they understand that opportunities are not guaranteed. This is why they are trying to reach you before they lose you emotionally. They are afraid that while they were busy deciding what to do, you were learning to stop waiting. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. There is another layer to this story that makes their urgency even stronger. Your soulmate may have recently heard something about you, noticed something about you, or learned something that forced them to reconsider their assumptions. Perhaps they discovered that you have changed. Perhaps they realized you are no longer the same person who once tolerated uncertainty. Perhaps they recognized that your silence was not weakness. It was your way of protecting your peace. And that realization created a completely different kind of fear, not fear of losing control, but fear of losing an opportunity to speak honestly. They began thinking about how many times they had almost reached out and then stopped. How many drafts were never sent. How many conversations happened only inside their imagination. How many nights they told themselves, tomorrow. And now tomorrow suddenly feels less certain. Don't skip. The urgency in this message comes from that realization. They know that if they keep postponing the truth, they may eventually have to live with words that were never spoken. Your soulmate is not simply remembering you, they are remembering the version of themselves they became around you. That may be the most surprising part of this entire story. When someone deeply affects us, we do not only remember the person. We remember who we were when we were with them. Your soulmate remembers moments when they felt understood without having to explain everything. They remember moments when they laughed more freely, when their guard lowered, when they could be honest about things they usually kept hidden. They remember feeling that someone actually noticed the person behind the surface. And now they are beginning to understand why your absence feels different from ordinary distance. Other people can disappear from our lives and eventually become memories. But some connections leave questions behind. Your soulmate has questions. What would have happened if they had been more honest? What would have happened if they had not allowed fear to make decisions? What would have happened if they had told you how deeply they cared before the distance became so complicated? Those questions have been following them. And last night, one question became stronger than all the others: what if I lose the chance to tell them? That is the thought that pushed them closer to action. They may not know exactly what they will say yet. They may still be rehearsing the conversation in their mind. They may still be worried about how you will respond. But they are no longer comfortable with silence. They are beginning to understand that waiting for certainty can become another form of avoidance. There is something powerful about a person reaching the point where they would rather hear the truth than continue imagining possibilities. Your soulmate appears to be approaching that point. They are preparing themselves for a conversation that could change how both of you understand the past. And perhaps that is why this message found you now. Not because you need to force anything, chase anyone, or make a decision before you are ready, but because something has shifted in the emotional story. The person who once hesitated is thinking about moving. The person who once stayed silent is searching for words. The person who believed there was always more time is realizing that time changes everything. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, because the next part of this revelation is about the one thing they are most afraid you will say if they finally reach out. They are afraid you will tell them that you no longer feel the same. That is the possibility they have been quietly wrestling with. They know that you may have healed from the past. They know you may have learned to protect your heart differently. They know you may have stopped checking for their name, stopped wondering what they were doing, stopped imagining a future involving them. And that possibility hurts because your soulmate realizes they contributed to the distance. They know that if you moved forward, they cannot blame you. They know that if you stopped waiting, you had every right to do so. But even knowing this, they still hope there is some part of the connection that remains. That hope is what keeps pulling them back toward you. They have probably imagined several versions of the conversation. In one version, they tell you everything and you understand. In another, they apologize and you remain silent. In another, they finally admit how much you mattered and discover that you have already closed that chapter. These possibilities have made them nervous. But last night, they realized something important. Uncertainty is painful, but regret can last much longer. They would rather know where they stand than spend another year wondering what could have happened. This is why the title carries such urgency. They are trying to reach you before they lose the possibility of being heard. They may not literally be racing against a clock, but emotionally, they feel as though something is changing. They can sense that the version of the relationship they once knew cannot remain frozen forever. Either the two of you eventually speak honestly, or life continues carrying both of you in different directions. And they are beginning to realize that they